My mother disinherited me over a bowl of potato salad, not in a lawyer's office, not in some dramatic reading of a will, in her kitchen. On a random Sunday, while she was stirring mayonnaise into cold potatoes and telling me, very calmly, that everything I'd worked for, everything I'd been promised, was being handed to my little sister instead. And then she asked me to smile for a family photo. If you're already feeling that little drop in your stomach like, oh, I know this flavor of family crazy, then yeah, you're exactly who I'm talking to. I'm Giselle, by the way, oldest daughter, professional fixer, designated mature one, and, as I eventually learned, long-term family scapegoat. This is the story of how my parents chose my sister Stephanie and her rich fiancé Derek over me, how they tried to erase me from the family business I basically built with them, and how that one awful afternoon ended up pushing me into the best life I've ever had. It's messy. It's petty at times. It still hurts, even now. But if you stick with me, there's a twist. You might be surprised whose side Derek ends up on. Okay, so let me set the stage a bit, because none of this makes sense without the backstory. I'm 29 now. Stephanie is 26. We grew up in the same house, with the same parents, Carol and Thomas, but you'd swear we were raised in two different universes. From as far back as I can remember, the roles were set. I was the responsible one, which in our house meant straight-A student, the kid who remembered dentist appointments, the one who vacuumed and emptied the dishwasher without being asked, answering after being guilted into it, the one who sat with my dad going over payroll for the family café when I was 15 while my mom called me her little accountant. Stephanie was the special one, my special girl. She was the pretty, bubbly, slightly chaotic little sister whose missed curfew was, oh, she's just young, whose failed math tests were not all academic, don't shame her, whose tantrums were, she's sensitive. You know that dynamic where one kid can do no wrong and the other can do nothing right? Yeah, that. Our family cafe was basically the third child. My parents opened it when I was 10. It was this tiny corner place at first. Mismatched chairs, chalkboard menu, my dad behind the counter making cappuccinos like his life depended on the foam being perfect. By the time I was in high school, I was doing homework at the back table and jumping up to ring people out when it got busy. At 16, I redesigned their ugly tri-fold paper menu into something cute and modern, using a free online template. And our sales went up enough that my dad jokingly called me his marketing genius. At 19, I came home from college every weekend to manage the Saturday rush because Stephanie was too overwhelmed to work regular shifts. You can probably guess whose name ended up on the About Us page as operations manager, though. Spoiler, it wasn't mine. But at the time, I made excuses. They need me more. Stephanie has a different path. This is just what oldest daughters do. You know that story you tell yourself to keep the peace? That was mine. After college, I got a job in marketing at a mid-size firm downtown. I still helped with the cafe, ran their socials, tightened up their brand, set up online ordering for them for free. Because we're family, honey. Why would we pay an agency when we have you? I'd roll my eyes and do it anyway. Because, yeah, we're family. Enter Derek. He showed up in our world about 3 years ago. Tall, crisp, button-down shirts, shoes that were definitely more expensive than my rent. He came into the cafe with some colleagues from his tech company. He's in venture capital, of course. And my mom practically levitated over the espresso machine. I remember the first time she introduced him to me. She had that tight, excited smile she gets when she thinks something important is happening. Giselle, she said, hand on his arm. This is Derek. He works in investments. Very successful. He's taken quite an interest in our little café. Isn't that right? Derek smiled, polite and a bit distracted. You've built something nice here, he said. Neighborhood places like this are gold if you scale them right. Scale, the magic word. My mom latched onto it like it was scripture. After that, Derek was around a lot. First as the nice customer who likes our muffins, then as the friend who's giving us advice, and then, 6 months later, as your sister's boyfriend. Of course, the wealthy guy sniffing around our family business ends up with my little sister, not the daughter who actually knows what EBITDA means. I wish I could tell you I was gracious and mature about it. I was mostly fine. Derek was perfectly pleasant to me, a bit distant, but not rude. It wasn't really about him, you know. It was about how my parents lit up around him. Dinner conversations after that were fun. Derek thinks we should franchise, my dad would say, passing the potatoes. Derek says the brand has legs, my mom would add, looking at him like he'd invented the concept of coffee. I'd be like, yeah, I've actually been telling you for years that if we... What? And my mom would cut me off. Yes, but Derek has experience with these things. Right, because my marketing degree and 6 years in the industry were just decoration. Meanwhile, my boyfriend Marcus, the sweetest human being on planet Earth, high school history teacher, makes $38K a year and thinks propelling young minds matters more than money. Would get these polite little, "Oh, that's noble" comments. At one dinner, my mom literally said, "Well, at least one of you found a partner who understands business," and laughed like it was a joke. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table. That quiet, "I heard that, but I'm not going to make this about me" way he has. Stephanie would giggle and change the subject. Harper, my best friend since freshman year of college, fellow scholarship kid, called it years ago. Your family is dazzled by shine, she'd say. They don't see substance unless it comes in a suit. She wasn't wrong. The thing about living in that kind of system is you learn to survive by minimizing your own hurt. Every time my mom asked Derek for a professional opinion about branding while completely ignoring mine, I'd tell myself, it's fine. I know they're proud of me. They just don't know how to show it. Every time Stephanie forgot my birthday but expected me to remember the name of her nail tech, I'd just swallow it. Pick your battles, right? Okay, so fast forward to last year. My parents' cafe was turning 15, which in restaurant years is like a century. They decided to throw a big anniversary party, close the cafe for the day, rent a tent for the parking lot, invite regulars and extended family. The whole thing. My mom called me one night, breathless. It's going to be huge, Giselle. We're doing a whole video presentation, speeches. Oh, you should see the banner Stephanie designed with Derek's help. It's so professional. You'll cry, honey. Our little dream come true. Notice whose help she mentioned. I offered to run some social media promos for the event. Maybe reach out to local bloggers. Mom said, "Oh, I think Derek's team is handling the PR side, sweetie, but thank you." Of course, I still showed up early that day to help, because I'm me. The cafe looked adorable. Fairy lights everywhere, old photos on the walls, a slideshow running on a screen with baby pictures of me and Stephanie sleeping in flower bags and sitting on the counter licking frosting bowls. I watched one picture pop up of 13-year-old me, hair in a messy bun, standing on a milk crate behind the register because my feet couldn't quite reach the floor, grinning while I handed a latte to a customer, the caption my mom had typed underneath, "Our first employee training for when she gets a real job one day." Everyone chuckled. I felt my stomach twist. I brushed it off, helped set out cutlery, straightened tablecloths, wiped down the already clean espresso machine because my hands needed something to do. Marcus arrived with flowers, kissed my cheek, did that little, "You okay?" look. "Fine," I lied. "Just tired." Family started to trickle in. Cousin Jennifer hugged me tightly. "You look great," she whispered. "Proud of you, boss lady." Aunt Ruth patted my hand. "Busy as always, I see. You put your fingerprints on everything, don't you?" She meant it kindly. I smiled. And then my parents came out, dressed like they were hosting an award show. My mom had this sparkly navy dress, my dad in a suit he only wore for funerals and bank meetings. My mom clinked a glass. "Everyone, thank you all for coming. 15 years of Carol and Thomas Café. We are so blessed." Applause. Whistles. You know the vibe. I stood near the back, Marcus beside me, Harper on my other side because she'd insisted on coming for anthropological research. Mom launched into a speech about humble beginnings. Dad got choked up talking about burning the first batch of scones the week they opened. It was sweet, honestly. I actually teared up a little. Then Mom said, "And of course, we couldn't have done it without our girls. Spotlight time." She gestured dramatically. Our youngest, Stephanie, my creative butterfly, always bringing joy into this place. She's the one who brought us into the modern era with social media and all that tech stuff. I literally choked. I was the one who set up their Instagram. I was the one who taught my dad how to use Square instead of the clunky old till. Stephanie once posted a blurry selfie of her with a latte and captioned it, "Coffee," and got mad it didn't go viral. Harper's hand found my arm. Like, breathe. And our eldest, Giselle, well, you all know Giselle, she's always been so reliable. Always there when we needed someone to watch the till or close up. Even now, with her big city job, she still pops by when she has time. Pops by. As if I hadn't been behind the scenes for years, doing all the unglamorous work. I felt heat crawl up my neck. But I told myself, pick your battles. It's their night. Then Mom cleared her throat. Did that little dramatic pause she does before dropping big news. "And speaking of the future," she said, glancing at Stephanie and Derek in the front row, "Thomas and I have been doing a lot of thinking. We're not getting any younger, and this cafe is our legacy. We want to make sure it's in good hands." She looked right at Stephanie, eyes shining. "So today, we are so proud to announce that we are officially bringing on Stephanie and Derek. As partners, they'll be taking over operations and expanding our brand. We've already started the paperwork to transfer majority ownership to them over the next few years." People clapped. Someone whistled. Derek looked startled but pleased. Stephanie did this mock surprised hand to her mouth gasp, like she didn't know it was coming. "Please." I felt the ground tilt. Wait, majority ownership? Paperwork? My ears rang. My hands went cold. I pressed my nails into my palms to keep from shaking. I had always been told, explicitly, that the cafe would be for both of you girls one day. It was the justification for every weekend I'd spent bussing tables instead of going to parties. "We can't pay you now, honey, but this will all be yours eventually. Both." Not Stephanie and her boyfriend with the investment portfolio. My mom wasn't done. And, one more thing, she said, glancing my way briefly, then away. We've also decided to reallocate some resources to support this expansion. When the girls were little, we started small college funds for each of them. Of course, life happens, and we had to use some of that over the years, but we kept a bit set aside. My stomach dropped. I knew about those funds. Mine had paid for the laptop I used in college, after a lot of careful conversations. I thought what was left was, I don't know, a tiny nest egg? Safety? A promise. Mom took a breath. After discussing with Derek's financial advisor, we realized that investing that remaining money directly into the business launch would be a much smarter long-term move. For everyone. Everyone. My lungs forgot how to work. Marcus felt me sway and grabbed my elbow. I heard my own voice say too loudly, "What? Money?" The tent went weirdly quiet, like someone had pressed mute on the background chatter. My mom's eyes flashed annoyance. Just for a second, then smoothed into that fake calm. Your education fund, sweetheart. It was just sitting there, and this way, it'll grow. It's all in the family. Everyone turned to look at me. Harper's nails dug into my wrist. Wait, I said, heart pounding so hard I could hear it. My college fund? The one you told me was my safety if something went wrong? You put that into this without asking me? Mom gave an incredulous little laugh. Giselle, don't be dramatic. It's not like we emptied a bank vault. It was just 10,000, my dad muttered under his breath before catching my mom's glare. $10,000. I tasted metal. $10,000 that I had thought of every time I turned down a trip, or a risky move, or even therapy, because I should keep that as a backup. Mom's tone went cold. We are a family. We make decisions for the good of all of us. You, of all people, should understand sacrifice. Giselle, you've always been the sensible one. People were shifting uncomfortably now. I could feel my cousin's eyes ping-ponging between us like they were watching a tennis match. Why didn't you at least tell me? I whispered. Or ask. Because we knew you'd overreact, she snapped, just a bit too loud. And look, you're proving us right. There it was, the script. You're overreacting. You're the problem. You're ungrateful. I could feel myself splitting in two. One part of me wanted to scream, to list every unpaid hour, every exam I'd studied for behind the counter. Every time I'd believed there, one day this will be yours too. Another part of me, the well-trained part, whispered, don't embarrass them. Don't cause a scene. Don't prove them right. I did what I always do when my nervous system crashes. I shut down. My voice went eerily calm. Congratulations, I said, to no one in particular. That's great news. My mom smiled, like she'd won. See, she chirped. She understands. Family first. Now, everybody, let's eat. Stephanie, come cut the cake. The moment was over. At least for them. I stood there frozen, every cell in my body buzzing. Marcus turned me gently to face him. Do you want to leave? He murmured. I can't, I said automatically. It's their party. He studied my face. You're white as a sheet, Giselle. Harper leaned in. I will personally light something on fire as a distraction if you need to run. Just say the word. I gave this strained little laugh that tasted like salt. I'm okay, I lied. I just need some air. I walked around the side of the café, away from the tent, past the dumpster where we used to sneak soda when we were kids. I leaned against the cool brick wall and finally let the tears come. All the stories I'd built my life on. We're building this together. We'll take care of you like you took care of us. This business is for both of you girls. Crumbled in about 45 seconds under some fairy lights and a speech. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my mom. Come back under the tent, please. People are asking where you are. Don't make this about you. I stared at the screen for a long time. Don't make this about you. $10,000 of my money. A business I'd poured my 20s into. And somehow, my reaction was the problem. I didn't respond. Instead, I texted Harper, I need to go. Can you grab my bag? She appeared 2 minutes later, bag in hand, eyes blazing. I told your dad you weren't feeling well, she said, which is not even a lie. Thanks, I whispered. Marcus insisted on driving me home, even though I said I was fine. We sat in silence for the first 10 minutes, the hum of the car filling the space. Then he said quietly, You know this isn't okay, right? I stared out the window. It's their money. They paid into that account. They can do what they want. That's not the point, and you know it. It's about trust and respect. They made a huge decision about something that directly affects you, and they didn't even include you in the conversation. I could feel the rational part of my brain agreeing with him. But the other part, the little kid who just wanted her parents to be proud, started defending them. They're excited. They want to grow the business. Derek probably told them it was a smart move. Marcus sighed. Maybe. But they didn't touch Stephanie's side, did they? I blinked. What? The twins, he said. They set up equal funds, right? One for you, one for her. Did you hear anything about hers being used? We realized that investing that remaining money, singular, not both girls' funds. My mouth went dry. No, I said slowly. She only said mine. Exactly, Marcus said. They used your safety net to bankroll Stephanie's future, without your consent. And then they called you dramatic for having feelings about it. I stared at my hands, picking at a hangnail until it bled. If I let myself accept that's as bad as it sounds, I whispered, then I have to accept a lot of other things too. He looked over at me. Maybe it's time to do that. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's bright, satisfied smile. Heard the words, "We knew you'd overreact." Around 3 a.m., I gave up and made tea. I sat on my couch in the dark, my small apartment suddenly feeling both like a sanctuary and a cage. My phone buzzed. Group chat. Family cafe crew. Carol. Such a beautiful night. So proud of our girl Stephanie and her future with Derek. The cafe is in good hands. Someone sent clapping emojis. Someone else. You raised them so well, Carol. No mention of me. Not even thanks to Giselle, too. My chest tightened. I scrolled up, way up, to older messages. Photos of the cafe's first anniversary. Me in an apron, flour on my nose. Mom's caption, couldn't do it without my little helper. Funny how helper never turned into partner. Around 9 a.m., my phone rang. Giselle. My mother's voice was clipped. We need to talk about your behavior last night. I almost laughed. Of course. My behavior. Yes. Storming off in the middle of our speech? People noticed. Your Aunt Melissa actually asked me if you were upset about the money, which was very embarrassing. Aunt Melissa noticed the part where you said you took my college fund without asking? I said, wild that someone would think I might feel something about that. You're twisting things. We didn't take it. We reallocated it. For the good of the family. You've had a stable job for years. You have your own apartment, your own life. Stephanie is just getting started. She needs more support right now. So that's the story? I said. I'm punished for being responsible, and she's rewarded for needing more? Got it. Don't use that tone with me, she snapped. You've always been so rigid. Life is about flexibility, Giselle. About supporting each other. Honestly, I thought you of all people would be happy we're expanding. You always said scaling was smart, didn't you? I pressed my free hand to my forehead. I said scaling could be smart if we did it carefully. I did not say drain my savings without my consent and hand the reins to my sister and her boyfriend while presenting it as a surprise announcement in front of the whole family. That part must have slipped my mind. You're overreacting, she said again, her favorite phrase. It's not like we wrote you out of everything. You'll inherit your share when we're gone, just like we've always planned. I went very still. Will I? I asked. Because last night you said you were transferring majority ownership to Stephanie and Derek. That means control. That means decisions. That means if they decide to sell or change the name or whatever, I'm just along for the ride. That's not what we said, she insisted. You're putting words in our mouths. I'm beginning to think you actually are jealous. There it was. The accusation she'd been itching to say. Jealous, of course. Because in her world, the only explanation for me having boundaries is envy. Mom, I said quietly, do you understand why this hurts? At all? Even a little? She huffed. What hurts is you making us look bad in front of Derek's colleagues. He was mortified. He's bringing serious money into this, Giselle. Connections. We can't afford to alienate him with your sensitivity. There it was, choosing him, explicitly, over me. Something in me snapped. For years, I'd taken the role, the responsible one, the bigger person, the one who swallowed hurt to keep the family machine running. Something in me refused to do it this time. Okay, I said. My voice surprised me. It was calm, almost flat. I hear you. You've made your choice. You chose them. You chose Derek's connections and Stephanie's needs over your commitment to me. That's fine. You're allowed. But don't gaslight me and call it love. Excuse me? She said, scandalized. I'm going to take some space, I said. I won't be coming by the café for a while. Please don't use my name in any marketing as if I'm part of decisions I'm clearly not included in. And do not touch any other accounts connected to me without talking to me first. If you do, I'll get a lawyer. The line went dead quiet. You would threaten us with lawyers? She whispered, like I'd suggested arson. I'm setting a boundary, I said. You can either respect it, or you can find out what I'll do if you don't. But I'm done pretending this is okay. You are being cruel, she hissed. After everything we've done for you, after all the years we sacrificed for you. There it was. The ledger. Every parent of a scapegoat keeps one. I appreciate what you did to raise me, I said, and for the first time, I meant it in a way that was separate from obligation. And I also deserve basic respect as an adult. Both can be true. She scoffed. You sound like your therapist. I don't have a therapist, I said automatically, then paused. But I think I'm going to get one. I hung up before she could respond. I walked to my tiny kitchen, made coffee with shaking hands, and sat at my table. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Dad? I let it go to voicemail. Then a text from Stephanie popped up. Steph? Wow. Way to make Mom cry on the day after her big event. You seriously couldn't keep it together for a few hours. I stared at the screen. Me, using my savings to fund your business behind my back was fine though. Steph, oh my God, it's not your savings. It was mom and dad's money. You act like you're entitled to everything. Me, I was told that money was my safety net. Theirs and mine. Big difference. 3 dots. She was typing. Steph, you have a good job. You don't need it as much as I do. Derek and I are taking real risks here. Why can't you just be happy for me? There it was. My pain was framed as selfishness, her entitlement as bravery. I put my phone face down. Harper came over that afternoon with ice cream and a bottle of cheap Prosecco. We sat cross-legged on my rug, half the bottle gone before I could fully articulate what had happened. She listened, eyes getting wider and wider. When I finished, she exhaled slowly. Okay, first of all, I'm so sorry. This is a lot. I nodded numbly. Second, she said, and I mean this lovingly, your family is absolutely off their rocker. I let out a wet laugh. You always did have a way with words. Like, I knew they played favorites, she went on. I've watched your mom practically throw rose petals in front of Stephanie's feet while handing you a broom. But this? Taking your fund without asking? Announcing it as a fun surprise? In front of everyone? That's another level. I shrugged helplessly. They think it's normal. That's the wild part. They genuinely believe I should just get over it. Be grateful. Harper topped up my glass. Of course they do. Because you being upset forces them to see themselves clearly. And that is their worst nightmare. We sat in silence for a minute, the quiet hum of my fridge, loud in the background. Can I ask you something? She said. And you can tell me to shut up. Always. Why are you still giving so much of your energy to their café, to their narrative? You've basically been their unpaid CMO for years. They clearly don't value that. What if you, I don't know, put that energy into something that's yours? I shrugged. Like what? Start my own cafe? I can't exactly conjure 10 grand back out of thin air. I don't know, she said. It doesn't have to be a cafe. What do people tell you all the time? That I work too much. She rolled her eyes. No. That you're good at telling stories, at making things make sense. When you talk about branding at brunch, even I, a humble HR rep, get it. You're always the one people come to when they don't know how to talk about something hard. I blinked. Okay, yes, but that's just being the designated emotional dumpster friend. She shook her head. Or, it's a skill. You know how obsessed people are with storytime videos right now? Women sitting down with a cup of tea, telling the messy truth about their families? You could do that in your sleep. I laughed. What? Start a channel called My Family Sucks, Please Subscribe? She snapped her fingers. Honestly, I'd subscribe to that. But no. Something. I don't know. Revenge diary. Or whatever. You always say your revenge is living well. You could literally turn that into content. The words hung in the air between us. Revenge diary. Part of me recoiled. I am not airing our drama on the internet. That would be nuclear. I'm not saying name names or show their faces, she said. You're a storyteller. Change details. Keep the essence. You always complain there's no real representation of our kind of family crazy, subtle stuff, not just lifetime movie abuse. You could be that person for someone else. I thought about it that night. The idea of taking this pain, this mess, and doing something with it that wasn't just stewing, it sparked something. But another part of me was terrified. What if my parents found out? What if they did what they always threatened? Cut me off. For real. It took a week and a half, 3 long walks, and a therapy intake session. Yes, I finally made the call before I opened my laptop and recorded a video. I didn't use my real name. I didn't mention the cafe by name or the city. I blurred details, changed some timelines. I just talked. Hi, I said, staring at myself on the screen. I'm the oldest daughter in a family where responsibility was my job description and gratitude was my love language. A few weeks ago, my parents used my safety net to fund my sister's future without asking me, and then called me selfish for being upset about it. I told the story in broad strokes. Not everything, just enough. I talked about being the helper, the fixer, the rock. I talked about golden child dynamics without using that phrase. I talked about how crazy making it is to have your feelings denied. I called the channel Revenge Diary, mostly as a joke, because Harper wouldn't let it go. I'm not here to drag anyone, I said at the end. I'm here to tell the truth, because for people like us, the ones who've been told our whole lives that our experience is too much, hearing someone else say, no, that was real, that can be its own kind of revenge. I almost didn't post it. My finger hovered over the button. I pictured my mom's face if she somehow stumbled across it. The drama, the rage. And then I thought about the younger version of me, the 15-year-old wiping tables at 10 p.m. while my sister was out at a sleepover. The one who thought, if I just keep being good, they'll see me. What would she have given to stumble upon a video of a woman saying, hey, it's not you. You're not crazy. I hit upload. I closed the laptop and immediately did the millennial thing, where you throw your phone across the room like it just bit you. I told no one except Harper and Marcus. The views trickled in slowly at first. 50? 100? The comments, though, those were what got me. A woman in her 40s wrote, I'm sitting in my car sobbing because you just described my life. Oldest of 3, parents left my share of the house to my baby brother because you're doing fine. Thank you for saying it out loud. Another, I've literally never heard someone talk about this without laughing it off. Please keep making videos. I didn't tell my family. I went to work. I went to therapy. I ignored my mother's texts for a bit, then answered with very neutral, hope you're well messages. I did, however, start saying no. No, I can't run the cafe's Instagram for free anymore. My consulting rate is X. No, I won't be available to cover Stephanie's shift if she cancels last minute. I have my own job. Every boundary was met with some version of, wow, ever since that little incident, you've become so cold. In therapy, my counselor, a soft-spoken woman named Alicia, gently said, what if cold is just what it feels like to finally stop burning yourself to keep everyone else warm? I thought about that for days. Meanwhile, Revenge Diary, which still felt like a silly name, quietly grew. I posted once a week stories about the invisible eldest daughter, about being called selfish for not wanting to loan money to a sibling who'd never paid me back, about being the emotional support human for everyone, including my parents. Every time I hit upload, I half expected a furious phone call. It didn't come. Instead, I got messages like, I showed this to my therapist, and my husband finally gets what I've been trying to tell him. About a month in, I got my first hate comment. Maybe you're just bitter, and your parents did their best. Respect your elders. Old me would have spiraled. New me typed, I can be grateful for what my parents did and still hold them accountable for the harm. Both things are true. And then I logged off and went to make dinner with Marcus. It was freeing. The first person in my real life to find the channel was, of course, cousin Jennifer. She DM'd me a screenshot of my face with the caption, is this you? Because if so, wow. My heart lurched. I considered lying. But this was Jennifer, the one who slipped me $50 in an envelope when I moved into my apartment and whispered, "For takeout on your first night. Don't tell your mom." So I told the truth. "Yeah," I wrote. "It is. Please don't tell them." She replied immediately, "I would rather eat my own shoe than send your mom a link. Also, I'm proud of you. Also, you have no idea how many cousins' group chats are going to explode over this. In the best way." A few days later, Aunt Ruth called. "Dear," she said, without preamble, "I stumbled across something on the internet, and I think I've been listening to you without realizing it was you." My throat went dry. "Oh, that revenge diary woman talks exactly like you when you're tired," she said, amused. "And she has your eyes. I may be old, but I'm not blind." I sank onto my couch. "Is that a problem?" "Problem?" she said sharply. "No, it's a revelation. I always knew things weren't quite right in the way Carol treated you, but I told myself it wasn't my place. Watching those videos made me realize silence is its own kind of cruelty." I swallowed hard. "Your mother is going to be livid if she ever finds out," Ruth continued matter-of-factly. "But maybe that's what she needs." A mirror held up. "In any case, I won't be the one to show her. I just wanted to say, I see you. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. And I think what you're doing is important." I cried after that call in a way I hadn't even cried after the cafe incident. Long, shuddering sobs that felt like they were coming from some 14-year-old place in me. You know that specific relief when an older woman finally says, "You're not crazy. I saw it too." Yeah, that. I wish I could tell you that was the turning point, and everything after that was easy. It wasn't. 2 months after the party, I got an email from my dad. Subject line, "Meeting." "Hi, sweetheart," it began, like everything was normal. "Your mother and I would like to sit down and talk about everything. Derek has some ideas about how to make you feel more included in the business. Can you come by the house Sunday?" The quotation marks around included did something ugly to me. I forwarded the email to my therapist. She wrote back, "What do you want? Not what's expected. Not what will cause the least ripples. What do you want?" What I wanted was simple and impossibly huge. I wanted parents who didn't put my needs in quotes. I wanted a reset button, but in the realm of reality, what I wanted was clarity. So I said yes. "Marcus came with me but stayed in the car outside, in case you need an extraction," he joked. I walked into my childhood home and immediately felt my shoulders creep up toward my ears, like my body remembered more than my mind did. My mom was in the kitchen. Of course, she gave me an air kiss and acted like we hadn't had a semi-nuclear phone call a few weeks prior. "Tea?" she chirped. "Your father's in the dining room. Derek is joining us too." "Derek?" I repeated. "Yes," she said. "He's family now. We value his insight." Of course, I walked into the dining room to find my dad at the head of the table and Derek on the side, looking uncomfortable, actually. He stood up when I came in, which I clocked as a small point in his favor. "Giselle," he said, "thanks for meeting." My dad cleared his throat. "We wanted to address some tensions," he began. Your mother and I feel things have been strained since the anniversary party. I waited. We never meant to hurt you, he said. We've always had your best interests at heart. I breathed slowly. Intent and impact are different things, I said. You may not have meant to hurt me, but you did. Deeply. This is what I was afraid of. We're going to be here all day rehashing one misunderstanding. One misunderstanding? I repeated. She waved a hand. Fine, several. The point is, dwelling on it isn't productive. That's why Derek is here. He had a suggestion that I think is very generous. All eyes went to Derek. He shifted in his seat. I, suggested that we maybe formalize things, he said. Draw up a small shareholder agreement for you, Giselle, so you feel acknowledged. Formalize what? I asked. You've already assigned majority to yourselves. My dad looked offended. We have not assigned anything. Nothing is finalized yet. Your mother worded it poorly that night, Derek said quickly, clearly trying to smooth things. What we'd like to do now is give you a small percentage stake in the brand we're building. It would be a gesture of good faith. A small percentage, I repeated, funded by my own money that I no longer have access to. And in exchange, what? My silence. The word hung between us. My mother's eyes narrowed. Silence about what? I met her gaze. About how you handled this. About the patterns. About the way I've been treated my whole life. Because if you can buy off my anger with a few shares on paper, you never have to actually own what you did. You can tell yourselves, you fixed it. Derek looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. My dad frowned. No one is trying to buy you off. We're trying to make amends. Amends would start with an apology, I said. A real one. Not we're sorry you feel that way. My mother bristled. We are not going to sit here and grovel when all we tried to do was build something for this family. You've always been so ungrateful, Giselle. Ever since you were little, acting like chores were oppression, when we were just teaching you responsibility. That's called parentification. Slipped out of my mouth before I could stop it. Her eyes flashed. Oh, so now you're diagnosing us? Did your little internet fans teach you that? There it was. My stomach dropped. Internet? Fans? I said slowly. She smirked. A cruel little twist of her mouth I'd seen pointed at waitresses before, but never at me. You really thought no one would find it? She said. Your little revenge diary? Every hair on my arm stood up. How? I started. A friend from church sent me a link, she said, triumphant. Said, isn't this your daughter? Imagine my surprise when I clicked and heard you describing us as if we're some kind of monsters. Wait, what? My dad's jaw was clenched so tightly, a muscle twitched. You have been airing our private family matters to strangers, he said quietly. 4 clicks. For survival, I shot back. And I never used your names. I never showed your faces. I changed details. It was about me, my experience. Which, by the way, is mine to share. My mom scoffed. Oh, spare me the TED Talk. You made us look like abusers. If the shoe fits, Carol, a voice said from the doorway. I turned. Aunt Ruth stood there, arms folded, eyes blazing. Apparently, she hadn't just run by to borrow Tupperware, like Mom had said. She walked in slowly. I told you this would happen, she said to my parents. That if you kept treating Giselle like the family workhorse while showering Stephanie with praise, one day she would speak, and you would not like what she had to say. My mom actually spluttered. Ruth, how dare you? How dare I? Ruth shot back. How dare you? I've held my tongue for 30 years. I watched you put adult problems on a child's shoulders, watched you call her mature while leaning on her like a third spouse, watched you dismiss her when she tried to set limits. I'm done keeping your secrets. Derek looked between us like he'd wandered onto the wrong stage. My dad stood up abruptly. This is getting out of hand. We invited you here to reconcile, Giselle, and you turned it into a spectacle. I didn't invite anyone, I said. I came because you said you wanted to fix things. But you don't. You want control. You want me to behave. Quietly, gratefully. I stood too. My legs were shaking, but I made them hold. I'm not going to stop telling my story, I said. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should ask yourselves why. I'm not naming you. I'm not suing you. I'm simply stepping out of the role you wrote for me. Cut the dramatics, my mother snarled. You think your little YouTube hobby is more important than your family? Fine, but don't expect us to sit by while you humiliate us. I met her eyes. For the first time, I felt nothing. Not fear, not sadness. Just a sort of detached clarity. I don't expect anything from you anymore, I said. That's the point. I turned to Derek. For what it's worth, I know you didn't create this dynamic, but you're participating in it. Every time you suggest something that benefits you without questioning how it affects me, you're choosing a side. He swallowed. I honestly didn't know about the college fund until that night, he said quietly. You thought what they told you, I said. I get it. That's how this works. But you're watching now. So what you do from here is on you. I walked out, past my mother's gasp, my father's, Giselle, don't you dare walk away, Ruth's murmured. Let her go, Tom. Marcus was waiting in the car. He saw my face and just started the engine without a word. We drove in silence for a few blocks before I burst into hysterical laughter. He glanced at me, alarmed. Are you okay? Honestly, I said between laughs that were half sobs. No, but also, kind of. What happened? And Aunt Ruth went full Greek chorus. It was a lot. He listened as I told him everything. When I finished, he squeezed my hand on the console. I'm proud of you, he said. You didn't cave. You didn't apologize for existing. I blinked rapidly. I wanted to. Every cell in my body wanted to. But I didn't. He smiled. That's growth. Painful, ugly growth. But growth. The fallout came fast. That night, my mother sent a message to the extended family group chat. Jennifer screenshotted it to me within minutes. Carol, due to recent events and Giselle's decision to publicly slander us online, Thomas and I have made the very difficult decision to step back from a relationship with her for the time being. We will not tolerate this kind of betrayal. We ask that our family respect our boundaries and not encourage her behavior. My stomach clenched. Not the years of unpaid labor, not the quiet swallowing of hurt, not the unilateral decisions with my money. My telling the truth was the betrayal. The replies were mixed. Aunt Melissa, oh, Carol, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Kids nowadays don't understand respect. Cousin, that's so hard. Praying for reconciliation. Then, Aunt Ruth, for the record, I stand with Giselle. I've witnessed the patterns she's talking about. This isn't kids nowadays. This is a woman finally naming what she's lived. I will be maintaining my relationship with her. If that's a problem, so be it. Silence after that. Then, a private text from Jennifer. Jen, I'm with you too. Mom says she's tired of Carol's theatrics. Also, the way she said publicly slander about videos where you literally changed their names is a choice. I exhaled. Losing your family, even a dysfunctional one, feels like death. You can know logically that the dynamic is harmful. You can have therapists and friends and comment sections telling you you're doing the right thing. It still hurts. It still feels like standing outside in the cold, watching everyone else eat warm turkey inside. But something else happened in that cold. I realized I wasn't alone. Revenge Diary blew up in a way I hadn't expected. Apparently, my mom's attempts to shut me down by hate watching had inadvertently fed the algorithm. The more she replayed, the more other people who'd Googled toxic family, oldest daughter martyr got recommended my videos. I woke up one morning to 20,000 new subscribers. My inbox was full of messages from women saying things like, "My mother also used my inheritance to pay off my brother's debts. My parents deeded the family home to my baby sister because you're so independent. Thank you for making me feel less crazy. Please talk about what it feels like to be cut off by your family for telling the truth." So I did. I talked about grief. I talked about the strange relief of not waiting for the other shoe to drop because it already had. I talked about how holidays became simultaneously easier and lonelier. About 3 months after the meeting, I got an email from an editor at a mid-sized online magazine. Subject: "We love Revenge Diary." She wrote, "Have you ever considered writing about your experiences? We think our readers would relate to your story. We'd pay, obviously." Being paid to write about this? That felt both surreal and slightly illicit. I said yes. The article was titled, "When Your Parents Choose Your Sister's Future Over Your Safety Net." I wrote it anonymized again, but I didn't hold back on the emotional impact. I thought it would get a few comments, maybe circulate in some niche estranged kids forums. Instead, it went moderately viral. Not Good Morning America viral, but enough that my inbox exploded again. More significantly, it crossed into circles my family couldn't ignore. A week after it went up, my dad emailed me. No subject. "Your mother is very upset," he wrote. "People in the community have been sending her this article, asking if it's about us. You've brought shame on our family. I hope you're satisfied." I stared at the words for a long time. Old me would have rushed to clarify, to soothe. "It's not really about you. I changed details. Please, don't be mad." New me recognized that shame in our family meant people seeing past the image. I replied simply, "If you're uncomfortable with how you're portrayed in a version of the story where your names aren't even used, perhaps you should consider why." He never responded. But someone else did. A week later, my work phone rang. Unrecognized number. "Hello? Hi. Is this Giselle? From Revenge Diary?" "Yes," I said slowly. "This is Derek." My brain did that record scratch sound. "Derek, as in your sister's fiance," he said. "Well, ex-fiance. Actually." I sat down hard. "I'm sorry," I said. He sighed. "I'm sorry to call you at work. I wasn't sure how else to reach you without going through your parents, and that felt unwise." "That's fair," I said automatically. "What's going on?" He was quiet for a moment, like he was choosing his words carefully. "I read your article," he said finally, "and I've seen some of your videos. I know they aren't literally about me, but I recognize things, patterns, especially after what's happened." "What has happened?" I asked cautiously. There was a rustle on his end, like he was pacing. "Stephanie and I We broke off the engagement, he said, a few weeks ago. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm not calling to dump my relationship drama on you, he said. I owe you an apology, and maybe an explanation if you want it. I was so stunned I actually laughed. An apology from you. I was there, he said. At that meeting, I watched your parents minimize your feelings. I watched your mother attack you for having a voice. I sat there and suggested you be given a tiny shareholder stake like it was a gift from on high, without once questioning if what they'd done with your fund was actually okay. He exhaled sharply. I'm sorry. I went along with a dynamic that benefited me. I didn't ask the questions I should have asked. That's on me. I leaned back in my chair, mind racing. I appreciate you saying that, I said slowly. It doesn't undo anything, but it means something that you see it now. There's more, he said. After your article came out, my mom sent it to me with no context, just, sound familiar? Then my grandmother called me, asked me, point blank, if it was about you. I couldn't lie, and she was not impressed. I stifled a bitter laugh. I can imagine. She started asking questions about your fund, about your involvement in the cafe over the years, he continued. I realized I didn't actually know the answers. I'd taken at face value what your mom told me, that you helped out sometimes, and weren't really interested in the business. He paused. Reading your piece? Watching your videos? Talking to some of your cousins at a party? It painted a very different picture of you and of them. I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness sweep through me. So what now? I asked. Why call me? Because my family is reevaluating some of our involvement with the cafe, he said. We're not moving forward with the franchise plan. We're pulling the capital. And I wanted you to hear it from me, not via some dramatized rant from your mother. I blinked hard. Wow, I said. That's a lot. And, he added, because I wanted to say, if you ever need a formal paper trail of what happened with that fund, I'm willing to corroborate. In writing. If it comes to that, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Thank you, I said quietly. I'm not planning on suing my parents, but knowing I could if I had to, that's strangely comforting. It was awkward and tentative, but there was a shared understanding there that hadn't existed before. When I hung up, I sat at my desk staring at the wall. For years, the story in my family had been, Giselle is jealous. Giselle is difficult. Giselle overreacts. Now, the guy they'd essentially centered their business dreams around was seeing what I'd seen all along. It didn't fix everything. It did something else. It proved I hadn't been crazy. The months that followed were weird. The cafe quietly dropped any mention of expanding soon. From their socials, the tent came down. The fairy lights were sold on Facebook Marketplace. My parents never mentioned any of it to me, of course. They just went about their lives as if nothing had changed. The only reason I knew it all was from Jennifer, who still stopped by for coffee sometimes and texted me updates like a spy. Jen, Grandma Ruth told me Derek's family pulled out. Carol is fuming but putting on a brave face. Also, your mom tried to blame you somehow. Said your publicity stunt scared off investors. Everyone who isn't delusional is side-eyeing that hard. I felt that old guilt flare for a second. Had my videos, my article caused this? Then I remembered. I had not lied. I had not exaggerated. I told the truth about my experience. If Derek's family, upon seeing behavior clearly, decided we don't want to be in business with these people, that was on them, my parents, not me. Meanwhile, Revenge Diary kept growing. I started doing live Q&As. People would send in questions like, how do you grieve parents who are still alive? And how do you handle siblings who stay in denial? And is it okay to build my own traditions? I answered as honestly as I could, always adding, I'm not a therapist, just a woman who's lived this, and recommending real counseling whenever I could. One night, after a live, I got a DM from a woman who said, I work in publishing. Have you ever thought about writing a book? My first instinct was to say, I'm just some girl with a ring light and trauma. Who am I to write a book? But then I thought about the 15-year-old me again. And the 45-year-old in my comments who said, I wish I'd had these words when I was your age. So I said yes. Writing it was like lancing a wound and stitching it up at the same time. I went back further than the café, to when I was 8, and my mom said, be a big girl and stop crying. Your sister is the baby now. To when my dad confided money worries to me at 11, and I sat on the stairs with a calculator trying to figure out how to help. I wrote about the anniversary party, changing details, of course. I wrote about the meeting, about Aunt Ruth standing in the doorway like some kind of avenging fairy godmother. I wrote about starting the channel, about the terror and the freedom. I didn't send an advance copy to my parents. I dedicated it to everyone who's ever been told to be grateful for crumbs while they're quietly starving. You deserve a full plate. When the book came out, my life shifted again. I was still working full-time in marketing, but suddenly, I was also that woman who wrote about toxic families in certain corners of the internet. I did podcasts, wrote guest essays, got invited to speak at a local conference about boundaries. At one event, a woman about my mom's age came up afterward with tears in her eyes. I recognized myself in your mother, she said. Not the big dramatic parts, but the small ways of dismissing my eldest daughter. The, you're so strong, you don't need us. I realized I've been hurting her. I called her after reading your book. We're going to therapy together. I cried in my hotel room that night, not because my parents had done the same. They hadn't, but because maybe, in some sideways way, my story was helping someone else's mother not become my mother. About a year and a half after the cafe party, my dad sent me a letter, an actual paper letter, in his neat old-school handwriting. Dear Giselle, it began, I know you don't owe us anything. I read your book. All of it. Your Aunt Ruth left a copy at the house by accident. I smiled at that. I'm ashamed to say there were things in there I didn't see at the time. Or maybe I didn't want to see. Either way, I let your mother's narrative dominate our family. I let you carry burdens that weren't yours. I didn't protect you when I should have. I can't change that now. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry. I sat with that letter for a long time. It wasn't enough to make me run back, arms wide, but it was real. It was the first time he hadn't said, I'm sorry you feel that way. It was, I'm sorry I did that. There's a difference. I wrote back. Dear Dad, I said, thank you for your letter. It means a lot to hear you own your part. I'm working hard on healing. That sometimes means space. Maybe one day, that space will be smaller. For now, I wish you well. I didn't write to my mother. Last I heard through the grapevine, the cafe is hanging on. They're doing less fancy brand expansion and more just serving coffee. Stephanie still works there part-time, between influencing and trying to launch a podcast about manifesting abundance, which, yeah, Derek moved on. He's engaged again, This time to a woman I've never met, but who, according to Aunt Ruth, does not tolerate nonsense. Good for him. As for me, I got promoted to VP at my firm this year, partly because of my work, partly because, in my boss's words, you understand audiences in a way that isn't just numbers on a screen. I laughed and said, growing up with Carol was good research. But yeah, Marcus and I got married in a tiny ceremony at a cabin up north, just us, Harper officiating with an online license, Aunt Ruth in a floral dress crying in the front row, Jennifer tipsy on champagne making everyone laugh, no parents. It hurt, and it was perfect. We wrote our own vows. Marcus said, I promise to never make you prove your worth, because you are worthy just by existing. I said, I promise to never make you my emotional parent, because I know how heavy that load is. We ate barbecue off paper plates and danced barefoot on the deck to a playlist Marcus made. At one point, I looked around at these people who had chosen me, who saw me fully, and I thought, oh, this is family. Not the thing you're born into and assigned a role in like some bad low-budget play. The thing you build, intentionally, with people who love you without a ledger. Revenge Diary is still going. It's bigger now. I have help, an editor, an assistant who schedules posts. Sometimes, yeah, I feel weird that my most painful experiences are content. Then, I open my inbox. Your video kept me from calling my mom back and apologizing for something she did. Your story gave me the courage to spend Christmas with friends instead of alone because my family forgot to invite me. I played your clip from my husband, and he finally understood why I cry after visiting my parents. And I remember, this isn't about my family anymore. It's about all of us who were taught to swallow our pain to keep the peace. It's about rewriting the script. If you've watched or listened this far, you probably recognize pieces of yourself in my story. Maybe you're the one who always cleaned the kitchen while your siblings relaxed. Maybe your parents tapped your savings to bail out a brother because he needed it more. Maybe you were told you were too sensitive when you cried over being left out of something important. I want you to hear me when I say this. You are not crazy. You are not selfish for wanting basic respect. You are not ungrateful for being hurt when promises are broken. You are not dramatic for telling the truth about your own life. You are allowed to want more than scraps. You are allowed to step out of the role they wrote for you. You are allowed to build your own table and invite people who actually bring something to it besides criticism. Sometimes the worst thing that happens, the disinheritance, the exclusion, the moment they choose someone else over you, feels like the end of the world. Sometimes it's the push you needed to step out of a story that was slowly killing you. I didn't get my $10,000 back. I didn't get a fairy tale reconciliation where my mom sobs and says, I was wrong. You were right. I'm so sorry. I got something else. Peace. A husband who values my heart more than my resume. Friends who show up with ice cream and sarcastic commentary when my world implodes. An aunt who chose truth over family image. A platform where my messy, imperfect story helps other people feel less alone. That's my revenge. Not their business failing. Not them suffering. Me living well. Me refusing to play the scapegoat. Me taking every "you're too much" they threw at me and turning it into "I am enough." If you're somewhere in the middle of your own version of this, maybe you just got uninvited from a holiday, or found out money you were promised is gone, or your family is calling you disloyal for speaking up, I want you to know there is life on the other side. It's scary. It's lonely sometimes. But it's real. You deserve real. If my story hit a nerve, if you felt yourself in any of this, I'd love for you to stick around. This is literally what we do here. Hit subscribe to Revenge Diary so you don't miss future stories and deep dives into messy family dynamics, boundaries, and all the ways we can choose ourselves without becoming the villain in our own heads. And if you know someone, an older sister, a friend, a coworker, who's going through something like this, share this video with her. Sometimes hearing, "Oh my God, me too," from a stranger on the internet is the first step toward realizing you're not the problem. Thank you for listening all the way through my chaos. Wherever you are in your own story, I hope you find the courage to stop shrinking, the strength to set the boundary, and the people who make you feel like you were never too much. You were just in the wrong room. You deserve so much better than crumbs. You deserve the whole damn table.